What's weird though is like I didn't get through the whole thing, but I'm about halfway through. But I heard you say where you haven't seen anything in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't seen any. It's really weird to explain because there's different degrees of seeing things, right? There's recognizing that something's different, and then there's something morphing right before your eyes as you're looking at it.
I haven't had anything like that.
That
ever.
was happening to me frequently, and lots of things that just don't exist in normal reality were appearing before me, and I was tracking things that were changing, and I had my notes, and I knew very well the way they were because we were discussing them as Mandela effects. And then,
see, I keep a logbook now too. I keep a log of everything.
I still got my notes where cornflakes was spelled with a K, K-O-R-N. I mean, when it switched, the world kind of switched with it. And then the Mandela effect would have been either not talking about it at all or talking about it in the reverse. So I was like, wait a minute.
Well,
what just happened?
Well, and that's what I wanted to discuss with you because you were part of something that really was the most bizarre thing and the most disturbing thing. And I'm thinking I might be losing my mind.
That's what I thought at first.
When you guys were on Scarab on Mandela, I think I said I could hear you guys like. You were talking, like, unless he put, like, some stuff on afterwards that he didn't mean to, I could hear you guys, like, talking over each other and, like, you weren't even on air. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were very candid conversations. I mean, it was nothing, like, bad or anything. You guys weren't saying anything bad.
You may have been picking up. See, this is the thing. Our shows are never scripted in any way. I mean, we don't. We will talk.
Where it was like you guys were talking, and it was like it was like you were not even on air. That's what I'm saying. It was like you were just randomly. All of you guys were. I mean, I could hear all of you.
You might be psychically picking up on that stuff, but I can tell you this: we talk. It's so funny because we'll call each other. We'll get online before the show, and we'll be talking. I'm pretty certain that show was just he hit the record and he didn't modify it in any way. It just was the way it was.
How was I picking up on that? How?
Well, I tell you, I mean, and Scarab and I have talked about things that I refused to even mention publicly at first because it was just too bizarre. I didn't know how to even begin to explain because it's just too weird. But I'm beginning to accept more and more that even the too weird is not too weird. And when I say too weird, I mean, I saw manifestations of demons. I saw things popping up all around me. And I wouldn't even talk about it. I would allude to it.
See, I don't want to see that. Please, God, no, I don't want to see that.
I would allude
because I'm susceptible to that stuff, but I try to, when I feel like a presence or something, I try to consciously get away from it. I try to, like, consciously think, you know what I do? Is I sing the song, Jesus Loves Me.
Yeah.
That's what I do to get away from that feeling.
They were all around me constantly and physically appearing, physically showing themselves. And I understood at the time that I had broken through something and I was no longer just seeing the physical reality. I was seeing a little bit blended past it. I was seeing
the spiritual world.
Yeah, I was seeing this stuff and they were all around me. And it was creeping me out. And I prayed. I said, God, I can't deal with this. I cannot function. I cannot do my job. I cannot do anything. I am so creeped out all the time by what I'm seeing. And it went away. It went away, and I don't see that stuff now. But
I'm glad.
In some ways I kind of miss it because it was a constant confirmation that this world is watching us. This outside world is always there. And I was aware of its presence constantly. But now I'm not. But I couldn't function. I was so creeped out. I would see these things, and it was They're ugly.
See, I haven't even seen anything like that, and I'm already creeped out and thinking that I'm except for the Looney bin. And I didn't even see anything like that.
For so many years, I was just like this normal guy going to work every day, just straight-laced normal. I tucked all the stuff that happened to me when I was young to the back of my mind and didn't think about it. I just ignored it. And then, this whole thing started for me September 23rd, 2016. And it's...
See, for me, I've seen it my whole life. And that's what's weird because, most people say they saw it started happening in 15. Well, I know for a fact that my first one was late 70s or early 80s. I don't know exactly, but somewhere along that time frame. Wow. Because I saw John Deere go from DER to DEERE.
Okay,
and
that's cool.
Yes. Yeah. And this was like late 70s, early 80s, and it's like, so that's what's weird too for me is like, am I the only one that has seen all this stuff my whole, and see, I have like pretty much a photographic memory. Mm-hmm. I thought I was going nuts. Well, because I'm like, this is not what I remember. This is not how it is. And I just kept thinking I was going crazy.
Moneybags would love to hear you say that because I don't think the John Deere is getting as much steam as it deserves. But he did that I didn't do a video on it, but actually I did when I talked about just my testimony about how I came to the Mandela Effect, but I didn't do like a specific one for John Deere. See, I
saw that.
I don't have the trigger on that, and usually I talk about having an anchor memory, and the anchor memory is something that I was having a conversation about or there's something that locked in that thing as the way it was, and that's why I knew it as that. But
see, and the whole reason that I know about this one is because I live on a farm.
Yeah.
I have a farming
so you have the equipment.
So I saw... Yeah. We bought a new tractor or combine, and I saw it change. Wow. Well, I didn't see it physically, but I'm just saying.
You noticed the switch.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah, I didn't see it physically change, but I mean, I noticed the switch, and it disturbed me.
I've had a number of those, and then I've had a number where I've seen it, and this is what the double slit experiment, the double slit thing where the observer has an impact.
Yep.
When I've seen the thing switch, I feel like I almost had the observer effect on it. I was still glimpsing it in the old reality for just a moment, and then it switches in the blink of an eye to what it currently is. And that's happened like a dozen times.
Well, let me tell you, this is weird because Dan didn't tell anybody this, I don't think. Because I about a week ago, Gensploration, with two N's for me. Yeah. And I commented on one of her videos, and the very next day she replied, and then it was one N. And I said, you know what? Yesterday you were two N's.
Yeah.
I would be anxious to know if anybody ever said that to you. And she said, Dan from Scarab said that he, yes. So, but it happened for him 2 months ago. So why did that happen?
That's something that I've noticed and talked about many times. Fiverr and I were talking about that too in our little chat. That it happens at different times for different people. But it'll be the same phenomenon, but we're noticing it, and it's occurring at a different moment. And it's almost as if our dominant, I'm just using it as a model. I'm not saying this is how things work. But just as a model, it's like our dominant consciousness of wherever we are sometimes hops different timeline streams, and then we pop in at different times, but we're experiencing so many of the same things. It just feels like that. I'm not saying that's how it works, but I have noticed that effect. Like I experienced the shift in Flintstones back in October, November. That name changed for me. I was tracking it, and then it did a reverse. And then I talked to people 6 months later who had just experienced that shift, and they're like, this just happened now. But for me, back in late 2016, I was experiencing Flintstones with no T. It just was Flynn and then Stones, no Flint. Hillary had one L in her name, just one. Very clear about this. She didn't have two L's. Cornflakes was spelled with a K, K-O-R-N. Tom Hanks. Huh?
Well, I was just going to say the Hillary thing I don't have a memory for, but I believe that Flintstones was without a T for me originally. But I don't know for sure. There's things I know for sure and things that I think I know, but I'm not going to, like, base my life on it, you know what I mean? Because it's like...
These were all prominent ones for me, and I was actually tracking them as Mandela effects, as being the other way, like the way they are now. I was in that reality tracking them as having... They were supposed to be this way, the way they are now, but they weren't that way in that reality. I was tracking them. So Tom Hanks in Apollo 13 was saying, "Houston, we've had a problem." Vic,
see, that just changed for me on January 1st. It was we at the of course it was we had it originally, but then like about a month ago it was we've had, and then January 1st it changed for me.
See, that's
because I recorded it.
Yeah, that's about a year different from when. It's so funny because it's like a different time stream, but the same noticing. Houston, we've had a problem. Which, if you look for winks and clues and messages in all these changes, it's a little ominous because it's like I see a very reoccurring theme in these changes, like a little wink, like he's coming, meaning the Antichrist, the beast, the that's what I see.
I think we're in the end times.
Right,
for sure.
That's what I see. So, but I was going to say. I think
that's why we're seeing all this.
Right. The C and the K, which I kind of link to magic, I see reversing like cornflakes, being with a K and then to a C. Vicks was spelled in that time for me, VICS. Vicks Vapor Rub, but it was Vapor Rub still. Vicks, VICS. The whole world knew Vicks as VICS. It was never considered a VICK, right?
I never saw VICS. It
was just
I never saw. That's weird though, because see, I never saw VICS ever.
And then Katy Perry had been known and always known as Kate, Kate, and that was the reality of it. She was always Kate.
See, I never saw that either. I've always known her as Katy Perry. See, that's what's so weird about all this is that it's like
we can experience things at different times, and you experienced it back in the 70s, and I know that I've experienced some of these a long time ago. I just put them out of my mind. So there was one of my first and earliest weird shifts, which was many, many years ago, at least a decade. I noticed that the stop signs were upside down. The lights, traffic lights were all upside down.
Oh, definitely green was on top for me. Yeah,
and I
agree with that one.
And it boggled my mind for a good week, and then finally I just gave up on it because I was like, well, whatever. But I knew
that's the thing because I was out late at night one time, probably at a bar or whatever, and I saw all the stoplights ahead of me with the red on top, and I'm like, that is not right.
Right.
But I didn't. It's like you don't put it together because you don't expect your reality to change.
No, absolutely not. It's not supposed to happen. And then my anchor memory to the lights being green on top was when I was learning to drive in high school. I thought, oh, that makes sense. It's just like you're reading top to bottom. You're green, go, yellow, get ready to stop, and red, you stop. And it's like you're reading from top to bottom. That was the analogy.
There's a lot of residual for green being on top. I mean, and I definitely remember green on top for sure.
Yeah.
That's one that I definitely have in common with you because I know it was green on top. You know, I know that.
we're trying to piece it together. We're trying to figure out, and one of the reasons I didn't have really a channel. I wasn't a YouTube channel or anything. I was just trying to document, to get it on record, like public record. These changes are happening to me. They're happening to me right now. This is not a long ago vague memory in my mind. I'm watching the thing change. It's morphing. It's merging. Things are switching around. I wanted to put that out there because so many people are saying, oh, people have bad memories and they do this all the time. I was like, no. It's like if you just put on your favorite red tennis shoes and they change to blue by noon. It's like that, you know?
Exactly.
It was that profound. Constantly coming at me. And I started uploading like that just to get, it on record. And then all these people started saying they're having the same things, which was validating to me it made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind because I thought I was going insane. And
me too.
And then we just start forming this community, which is so funny. And now I'm doing these interviews with people just trying to get their insight, their take on it, and what do they think it is. And so that's kind of what this all turned into.
What is your theory?
I from the very beginning I felt like this is the coming of the end of an age, and that the stuff we read in Revelations and things.
Does that mean it's Satan, or does it mean it's Source? What is it to you?
So I started like decoding it or trying to, and I started seeing, well, Darth Vader now says, "No, I am your father." And instead of saying no, N-O, think about K-N-O-W, "No, I am your father." And Darth Vader is really Dark Father. So the Dark Father is saying to the world, "I am your father." And C-3PO's golden calf changed, and the whole Moses.
I think that's significant as well. Yep.
And people worship the golden calf, and I think the golden calf is going to be the AI. I think the AI is going to be the beast, and that's going to be the worship of the beast.
Well, I am in total agreement with you, and it's weird because I can't really talk about this stuff with burning people. But I mean, have you heard of like the black goo and?
I've heard of the black goo. And a friend of mine.
I mean, I think it's a thing. I honestly do. Yeah. And I think the AI, I think demons are coming back in AI form. I do.
Well,
that's what I think.
I've talked about it a few times. I saw one of the portals of hell open up. When I was seeing the demons, I saw the portal of hell. I smelled the sulfur.
You did?
Very strong.
Wow.
And I thought, these portals must be opening up all around. They're just opening up. So that Wayward Son is a YouTuber, and he just commented, I think on my most recent video or one of them, and he just said something so profound to me that I didn't catch it before, and he was talking about the Berenstein switch, which is one of the biggest. I mean, you could almost call this the Berenstein effect. But if you notice what changed in Berenstein, number one, it's a Jewish name.
AI.
Yeah, AI. It's been a Jewish name, right? And and also you've got the stain, like a blood stain. There's that connection. But the AI is definitely a pointer at the artificial intelligence beast system. But if you reverse it, he typed it out to me, and he said he did the EI switch to AI, but the EI to me looked like L, like EL. And that kind of blew my mind because L I've been tracking for the last 21 years. And L came to me in a dream, a very vivid dream at 2 a.m., and it was the most spookiest, craziest dream ever. I mean, I've had a lot of these bizarre dreams where things come to me and talk to me. And I did a video about voices and how the voices talk to me. And I haven't been reaching out for voices to talk to me. They just talk to me. And this one dream 21 years ago came to me, and very specifically, very lucid, was saying L is on the rise, and it's going to be a time where people are just going to go about their business laughing and playing and dancing and being ambivalent. Is it just not even going to be aware that this is coming? And
they're not.
And they're not. And it's a bad thing. They're oblivious to it all.
So why can we see it? That's because I'm so grateful that I can. But why are we seeing it?
And I noticed that for me. Okay, so now I've given my testimony about it, and for me, back on September 23rd, I just didn't want to be here anymore. I felt like life was useless. This world was useless to me. It was just dead, and I couldn't stand it, and I wanted to die, and I just prayed for death. I was like, I'm not going to kill myself.
But you know what? That's what the Bible says. People are going to want to die.
Yeah,
that's what it says.
I said, God, I'm not going to kill myself, but if you'd let me go with some, heart attack, something quick, something painless.
That's what I thought too. I was fine with it as well.
So I was actually asking for this, and then as an afterthought, I said, or just take over my life. And the next morning I followed up with this prayer, just asking Jesus to just come in and take over. And I had a very profound experience. Like, I had a full-on conversation with God, and it was more than just, it was more than I can describe in words. It had all the emotions, the understanding, the telepathic connection. It was huge. And I just strive to always be back in that moment because it was so clear and crystal clear. A few days after that experience, and I had a total 180 life change at that moment. A few days after that experience, I was praying and saying, God, if there's anything about this reality that you want me to know, would you show it to me? And I wasn't thinking that it was going to go this direction at all. But
right.
You know, a couple hours later, he showed me. He very powerfully showed me a person I knew had died was alive. And from there, it went into a spiral of just what is going on. And then all the stuff, the demons, all the things that were popping up, just everything started happening and firing off. And that's where I had to start asking for God to ease it back because it was too much. But
yeah.
Now my theory, I have a person who I'm interviewing Saturday she was writing this stuff down and documenting it back in 2008. And her comments were very specifically to what's happening now. And she's got this book lays out this same thing. Is the things that she's saying is that we are in a prison of a planet. Like, I'm not trying to go Alex Jones, but very in a spiritual dimension, the dark and evil, Satan, whatever you use for words, has got a lock on this planet and is siphoning creative energy power from the people who are, I guess, special.
I agree with you because I will tell you, when I was in college, well, first of all, I came to Christ in 88 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But before that, I did some drugs.
Yeah.
And I could feel that at that time. I knew this place wasn't real.
Right.
I knew it wasn't. And my friend Nancy, she was like, Michelle, what's going on here? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just be cool, whatever. But I knew what she was saying, and I felt it too.
Well,
so I know. I agree with you 100%.
And that's just a reconfirming or a message that has been getting delivered to me and pieced to me over the last year and a half. That seems to be over and over, and I'm trying to approach it with the least amount of bias as I can. Like my friend Shane at Unbiased and On the Fence. I like his channel.
I know him.
because of he's trying to keep himself. The bias that's in us can put blinders on us so hard. So it's hard to just sift through the truth and the lies if you just carry a lot of bias with you, and if you judge.
I really love his channel, but I'm not into the whole ascension thing. I'm not into that. Now, whatever scenario this is, and I don't know, at all, but I know that Jesus is part of it.
Yeah.
So the whole ascension thing is a little weird for me, but I do like his channel. I listen to it all the time. But I'm just saying I'm not into the whole ascension thing. I just don't think that's real. Now, I do think that God is good. It says in the Bible, he's going to make a new heaven and a new earth. So whatever that encompasses, I'm totally on board with. I
have wondered if our terminologies sometimes get loaded with a lot of internal meanings, because I've realized since the Mandela Effect that a lot of the stuff that God has said is going to happen may happen in a way different than we've all imagined, different than anybody's imagined.
Oh, I agree 100%. Let me tell you about what I think about the Tower of Babel. Why would God get upset about a tall building?
Right.
He's not going to get upset about a freaking tall building.
Right.
What that's meaning is that we were trying to go into outer space or trying to do something that we weren't meant to do quite yet. He's not going to be freaked out over a tall building.
Metaphorically, think about that one too, metaphorically. And I'm always looking at overlapping messages and meanings. And I no longer look at the timeline as a linear straight time. As stuff that
Oh,
happened
no, me either.
a million years ago could be present today, but there might be a double meaning to the message. So if you think about towers and communication, what does that mean in today's language?
Well, I think all this has happened before.
Yeah, and think about it. Towers and communication.
Or happening now.
5G.
Whatever. Yeah.
The telephones, the cell phones, the communication, the towers are going up. Well, the person I'm interviewing on Saturday says that the towers are part of the evil. She can call him Satan or anything you want, but the evil force that's trying to control us, that's all part of the control mechanism. It's a very mechanical, robotic, 3D machine almost that wants to harness energy from the life force. and when I talk to people, if I'm with a Christian group at church, I don't use words like telepathy.
They can't understand us.
I don't
they
use
can't
words.
understand
Yeah, and I don't use words like vibrational energy, but instead I might choose a word like blessing and prayer or meditate. Things like that they translate it in a way that they can accept it, but in some ways I might be referring to the same thing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to keep pretty neutral, and when I had the experience I had with God on September 23rd and the conversation that we were having, it was very clear to me one of the most important things that I was to do was to release forgiveness constantly to others, forgiving and not judging and not being critical of their ideas, and just release forgiveness constantly. That vibration of love.
That is a crazy confirmation for me too, because I felt exactly the same thing, because I held a lot of bitterness towards my ex-husband, a lot of bitterness, and all of a sudden it went away, and God helped me, whatever, to get over it, but I felt like I was supposed to release all that bitterness. And so that's a crazy confirmation too.
And isn't it funny that one of the verses in the Bible, that one of the big verses that changed in the Bible is, "Judge not, lest ye be judged."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what's all happening on an unseen level, but I have a theory that when we release forgiveness and we release non-judgment, we don't, like, let's say somebody's coming at me with evil intent, or just they want to fight. They want conflict. Their vibration, their energy, it's all directed at me in a hostile manner. My past has always been to fight back. Just buck up and go at them, and I'm talking about little things, just little interactions at work or, wherever somebody cuts in front of you, whatever it is, to engage in conflict and to fight for my right to control. It all comes down to that right to control. And that's the way this evil system's set up, is it honors people who get control and fight for control. And I used to fight for my right to control, and I used to send out a lot of conflict vibration back at people. And I've learned in the last year to try to recognize when the system, when I call the system this 3D reality, this controlled reality, which is a construct. When the system is trying to aggravate me, I believe it's doing that in order to siphon that emotional reaction out of me. Like there's energy it draws from me when I do that. And
I agree with you 100%, because I have like a kind of a weird relationship with my mom, and I feel like it is scripted sometimes. I feel like it's like meant to antagonize.
Right.
And I've been trying a lot lately, exactly what you said, just to not pay attention to it or not give it that energy.
And even to the next step for me has been to release the vibration, the blessing instead of the curse back at them, even if nothing is said, to release first forgiveness. That's the first, and then followed up with a love vibration, which is hard to explain, but you got to let the forgiveness flow freely in order for you to feel any love for them. And when you do that, even if nothing's said, even if a word is not said, I think there's something happening there. I think we are actually changing the reality that we are living in at the moment. The dominant consciousness that we have, I believe, is reshaping and changing that reality with what we're releasing. I've just sensed that, and I've seen people. I've seen their hearts soften when I start doing that, just change miraculously. I've seen people just with such rage soften up, and I've also seen my reality start to soften. The harsh reality starts changing. So it's all theoretical, but it can't hurt to release forgiveness.
Right.
That's what God
exactly.
was really impressing on me, is to release forgiveness and not to judge. And I have to admit, it's an easier way to live, a lot less conflict.
Yeah.
But this person that I'm interviewing Saturday, I don't know when I'm going to get the video upload, but she was actually documenting and she was documenting and putting out there material that was describing a lot of this stuff that's happening right now. And she feels
clear back in 2008. That's wild.
Yeah,
because I thought I was one of the earlier, but I didn't know what I was doing though, or I didn't know what was happening.
I think she believes we've had a timeline shift. Like things that were supposed to happen in 2008 were delayed. She talks a lot about CERN in her book, and HARP and Gwen and different things that the beast system and the evil one that they're using to control and
Archons.
Right. All that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so here another idea too is that we and I have to make a differentiation. There's, you said NPCs, and she says the robot people or the non-human souls. And this kind of correlates with the whole separation of the wheat and the tares in the Bible, that there's people here that aren't maybe part of this, but they're around like filler people. I think Dan calls them pod people. But the idea is that there's enough here that are part of the life source, and that's the whole attack, is to restrain
where did they
the
go?
life source.
Where does my family go?
Well,
because I know they're different, and I know they don't treat me the same, and it sucks, because it's like, where did my family go? Now my kids are different, thank God. If they weren't, I would go absolutely freaking insane. But they all remember the stupid Sinbad movie because all three of us watched it together.
Yeah.
And so thank God they have, and actually, I didn't even know it, but like a couple years ago, my kid was into it, and he's like, "Yeah, I remember the Sinbad movie," and I was like, "How come you didn't tell me about this earlier?" Because it was so strange, because the thing that, well, there's several things. JFK for people, huge.
Yeah, that's huge.
I mean, that is like 100%, 1,000, 1,000,000%. Poor people in the damn car.
Yeah.
And then the other things are the Bible changes, because there were no freaking unicorns in the Bible. I'm sorry. I've read the Bible, and there were no freaking unicorns or the words the Matrix in the Bible. Come on now.
Unicorns. When I was a Bible major, I would have been discussing the theoretical idea that unicorns had existed, but they were always an imaginary. And trust me, I've read every part of the Bible from cover to cover many times. I was going to be a Bible major. I was going to be a pastor. I've had these conversations. And it's really hard for people who are Christians who have studied the Bible this strong to understand why other Christians don't see the changes.
But the Bible itself says that it can be changed. It says, woe to those who change it.
Yeah, and Photohelix has brought up so many good verses, too, about the prophecies that it would change. And and I've often said, Jesus said, referring to when end times are coming, he said, within a generation, be on the look for the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. And to me, that could be a double meaning. That could also mean, we all think of a physical building, the new temple in Jerusalem. But what about the Bible? The Bible is a holy place that readers read, let the reader understand. And who do we see as abomination standing there now? It used to be the lion will lay with the lamb, but now we have a wolf, and he's not lying.
Yes. And let me just tell you one other verse that I think is really significant, is that it says, that there'll be a famine for the Word of God.
Yeah, in Amos, a famine for the Word of God.
And because it's changing, that's why the famine is happening right now, because you don't know, is this what God intended or not anymore? You know, I mean, you have discernment. You know, everybody has discernment, and they can kind of tell or whatever. But what I'm saying is, I think that verse is very significant.
Well, we're definitely in a battle. I believe we are in a battle, and deception is part of that battle. That the whole deception of whatever is, you know, the whole field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. Changes to if you build it, he will come. And I immediately thought of the Antichrist and it's building something. It's building its own temple. And the Antichrist, is saying, if you build it, he will come. All of these things just seem to be coming across. And when you say the double ends and things like that, my friend Andrew says that's like the sideways 33.
Yeah. All
the threes, when you see those ends change. But it's weird. All I know is, and not just major logos. People say, why is it always a major logo? Well, it's not true. It's not always a major logo. A lot of us are seeing simultaneously shifts in our personal reality that have nothing to do with logos.
Well, and see, that's the whole thing. I did a video on, I lived on Michael Donald Avenue. Now, most people, unless you live in Alabama, don't know who Michael Donald was, but it's called America's Last Lynching. Uh-huh. And that street was Micheal when I lived there.
Yeah.
And when I left Alabama, it changed to AEL.
Huh. Wow.
And that no one knows about that Mandela, but it is a Mandela for people who live in Alabama.
Yeah, and it's one that you personally have noticed. And I've had a number of these things happen where things that should not be, and yet I'm the only one that's seen it and can verify it. But just to give a quick example, I got a big white dog. My son and I were at home alone. There was nobody else in the house. He was in the kitchen working on the computer in the kitchen. I was in the living room on the laptop. The dog's wanting to go outside because he wants to go bark with the neighbor dog. And I say to my son, don't let the dog out. He just wants to go out there and bark with the dog, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm working on my computer. I'm 10 feet away from this door. There's no way that anybody got past me to let the dog out. And he didn't do it. He would say he didn't do it. I look up after about 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe. I look up and
the dog's out?
Yeah, he's looking at me through the window. Like, what the heck? How did he get out, you know? And it was just stuff like that. Lots of times things like that.
And that's why when I was hearing you guys talk, I mean, I guarantee you he did not mean to broadcast this. I mean, it was like I could hear you guys like talking among yourselves, like you weren't aware that you were on air.
You might be picking up on also, other timeline.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
But that's freaky as well. It's like it makes you want to go to the living bed, But thank God we have each other. I mean, thank God for the internet in a way, even though I think it probably is part evil.
Yeah.
However, thank God that we have each other, because how else would we cope?
Yeah, I think these hangouts and these chats are so popular because they are a place to congregate. Because we just don't physically, there's not enough people physically to get. I managed to get a physical meeting with us in the DFW area, and we had 10 people, and that was tough to coordinate.
I heard One Harmony's broadcast about that. He was thrilled about it.
Yeah, it's funny. We had a group picture with everybody, and I do look back and enjoy it. I don't know if I want to coordinate that all the time. It's very difficult to get together, and we are a very eccentric group. And can you imagine the people in that restaurant? Dan and I have laughed about this a few times. Just the people in that restaurant that were listening.
I know, they probably thought you guys were nuts.
I know they thought. Oh my!
Okay, I have a question question, though, because I asked Dan this tonight in Paul's broadcast, but Dallas was never that far north for me.
Now, Dan's been noticing geographical changes. I have not, but he's been mapping out, and him, of course, Lone Eagle, too. They've been looking at the maps, and he's been looking at things here locally, and Dan keeps asking me, do you remember this? It's like, man, geography is just not my thing. And same thing with looking at the stars. You know, he's got that expensive camera, and he takes pictures of the moon. And you know, when I saw the shift happen one night, where the moon was just like at half. It was at half. It was half full. It was maybe barely above half.
Did you see the Cheshire Moon?
Huh?
Did you see the Cheshire Moon? The one where the upside down smile or whatever, or the smile? I've seen that, and I'm like, that was never a thing.
I noticed that too, and then I thought to myself, is that normal? And then Life Matrix did a video on it. And I was like, oh, good. I thought I was seeing something strange, but I couldn't remember because I've never really paid that close attention to the moon. And one day when I saw it, at night, Dan and I were talking at 11 o'clock, and I was outside. I'm looking at the moon. It's about half full. And then at 5 a.m., I'm awake, and I'm driving to McDonald's to get some coffee, and I noticed the moon was almost full. It was like 97% full.
So you shifted.
And I said, wow, that's weird. That thing was just like half. And I texted Dan and said, hey, is it normal for the moon to – he said, no. And then
you shifted. You shifted.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very subtle, these shifts. But and if you aren't ready to accept that reality can shift, I don't think you can accept. You can see them, but you still can't accept it. But if you're open to the idea that this kind of thing can happen, you'll catch it and say, that's definitely reality is revealing itself. It's revealing that it's not real.
Even though I've seen these shifts all along, I'll tell you the thing that got me was, and that I knew something was weird, is that, you know, when I was a kid in the 70s, I used Noxzema skin cream. Mm-hmm. And it was Noxzema. Well, you know, about 8 months ago or something, I was in Walmart, and I was looking at an end cap, and it was Noxzema. And I'm like, I wonder why they dropped the Z. You know, I was just thinking that to myself. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's Z. Oh no, it has it now.
Oh, it does.
That was my first flip-flop.
Okay.
That was my first. But that's what made me realize that something was weird, because there is no way that they're going to go from Noxzema to Noxema and then back to Noxzema.
So you noticed that with the product that you use, and the Z is the thing that's going in and out. That's interesting.
Yep.
I can't say that I've tracked that one. And like I've said to people before so many times, that they're the ones that I've seen shift, no doubts, on like hard shift, and then everything else in between is like that's like the moon that Life Matrix did the video on. It looks bizarre, and I suspect something's going on there, and I'll talk about it as that could be a shift. But so many times I don't have that strong anchor. One of the first ones for me was the Phil Collins song In the Air Tonight. I had always known, and people say, oh, you're just mishearing the lyrics, you're an idiot. I had always known that song as saying hold on over and over and over and over. And when the Mandela Effect was, when it was becoming
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, well, it was always hold on. And when Mandela Effect was coming at me strong, I was like, wait a minute, the lyrics have never been hold on? So I said, that can't be. I was just I refused to accept that. There's no way the lyrics have never been hold on. And
that's the whole JFK thing was the main thing.
Right.
Well, and the Bible and the Noxzema. Those are the three main things for me. But it's weird how we're all triggered by different things, because all of a sudden you're like, nope, I'm not going to accept that.
That's right. Just refuse. Well, I went to look for the lyrics, and I found one thumbnail that had the lyrics spelled out. You know, so it was that line, and you could clearly see in the thumbnail it said "Hold on." It did not say "Oh Lord." And I was like, "Yes, I found one." Now, had I was so new to the effect, I wasn't thinking about like screenshotting or just doing anything to try and capture and hold it. I just wasn't ready for this.
Well, but even if you did, it would change.
Probably would, because Fiverr,
we've
noticed things change right after we've screenshotted them, and they'll change. But
the song lyrics that really bothers me is California Dreamin'.
Yeah.
When it says, it said, I began to pray, and now it says, I pretend.
Right.
That is a huge tell right there.
Yeah, it is. And that's a weird one, too, because I can almost hear it both ways. It's weird because I can go into it and clearly hear it one way, and I can say, okay, I'm going to go into it, I'm going to hear it the other way, and I'll clearly hear it the other way. It's like, whoa. And that one's really...
You know what, though? Mandela, do you follow Mandela Effect channel at all? He said that. He said he played it for his kids, even, that song specifically. And they heard it, like, at first they heard pretend, and then they heard began.
Right, and it's clear.
And he's like, he said he could make it change.
Right.
Well, I can't do that.
It's exactly the way I felt. It was like if I just think about it before I listen to it, and I was like, well, maybe my mind's just tripping on me. But going back to the Phil Collins, when I hit the thumbnail for that lyrics on the Phil Collins song, it started to play a YouTube video that I cannot find in existence today. I looked for it. It does not exist. It is gone from this reality. But as this video was playing, it was showing the long intro and the music. And then when it got to the words, he started singing, and the words popped up on the screen. And I was like, yes, it still says hold on. I was excited that I found one that said hold on. And as Phil Collins was singing the words, when he got to hold on, the words, big, bold, on the screen, changed right before my eyes to oh, Lord. And I just went white. I mean, the blood drained from my face. I was shaking. I was shaking in terror. I didn't know what. This was my first seeing anything change before my eyes. And I came out of that.
I haven't had anything like that, and that would freak me out.
I came out of that.
I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen at some time, but
my whole family saw me and said, "What just happened?" I was like, "I just saw the impossible. I just saw reality change right before my eyes. This is completely real." And that.
But see, does that make it seem like it's a hologram then to you? I don't know. I mean, that's.
I don't know. All I know is that kind of shift has occurred several times now for me, and I've gotten to where I can.
But see, the only explanation for that to me is a hologram.
Yeah, but then there's also the reality where I'm in, and it shifts. So for a while, I'm in this reality, and then everything flips over.
Okay,
and it's weird.
Yeah. That's true.
Know.
So it doesn't have to be a hologram.
Right.
It could be, but it could be just that we went somewhere else.
It's and then
into a different.
Okay, I've got a personal Mandela Effect shift that is not a world shift. It's not a global shift, and it's not only personal around me. I think it's directed at me. And I'm not trying to be narcissistic in saying this. I'm not trying to be egotistic. I just feel like the reality machine is aware that we're onto it, so it's targeting us. And it's setting up scenarios to pull us back in, and sometimes it's setting up scenarios just to make fun of us. This scenario was a Mandela Effect directed at me, and it was just to call me a piece of shit. Like an inside joke, it was to call me a piece of shit. And because at work, this thing happened, I did a video called The Phenyl. The urban definition for phenyl, F-E-N-N-A-L, is to be a piece of shit, particularly at work. And this word is a word...
I've never heard of that word before.
Or look it up in the Urban Dictionary. But this word was coming up at work where one of my employees was looking for the part that you screw on top of a lampshade. Because he needed me to order some. So I said, "What?" He said, "What is this thing called?" I said, "I have no idea. I've never had."
But isn't that spelled E-L at the end?
Well,
isn't that particular lampshade word?
The word changed. It was F-E-N-N-A-L, and I can't say it was this way globally, but in my little pocket of reality, and between me, my employee, and my boss, because I went to the boss, who was the regional manager who officed nearby. I went into his office with my employee Joel and said, "Look, we're looking for these things because people are stealing them. What is it called?" He said, "It's a phenyl." I said, what?
Why would they feel that?
And he said, it's a phenyl. And he said, you've never heard of a phenyl? He always liked to one up me, he would know something that I never heard of. That it was just a game to him. Really, you've never heard of a phenyl? And I was like, no, Scott, I can't believe you've never. So he said, let me show you what a phenyl is. And we go into the office HD Supply website, and he types in the word phenyl, and there it pops up on the screen, phenyl. And they're cheap, and you can buy them. So I said, let me write down that name and part number. So I wrote down the name, and I still have the picture of the notes, phenyl, and Joel standing there. And I wrote it down. I said, okay, next time I go place an order with them, I'm going to order a bunch of those. So as a joke, because my boss just found it so humorous, I think he was just being played by the reality, he kept bringing it up all day long. What'd you learn today, Scott? I said, I learned phenyl. That's right, phenyl, phenyl. We spelled it. We talked about it over and over and over. It was like a inside joke that was overplayed.
To me, that means that you're exactly right, because he was being used to get your goat.
Well,
basically.
And it didn't bother me. I understood it was just lighthearted humor. That didn't bother me. But 2 days later, I went to place the order. I'm on the computer. I'm typing in phenyl, and it doesn't exist. And I said, well, maybe it's EL, so I type in phenel. And nope, not coming up. So I have to Google it. What is the thing called? How do you spell? What is it called? It says phenyl, F-I-N-I-A-L.
Oh, phenyl. Okay.
Or phenyl. Yeah. I think they pronounce it phenyl, but I emphasize the F-I-N-I-A-L. That is nothing like what it was. I mean, nothing. And I called Joel. He was in the other room. Joel, get your butt in here. What? That thing we were going to order the other day. What's it called? He said a phenyl. How do you spell it? F-E-N-N-A-L. No hesitation. That's what he said. So I said, dude, this has just changed. And he knew about what I was saying about reality shifting. So I said, check this out. Changed. He said, no way. So I interviewed him, and I recorded him, Sharon, and I interviewed my boss, and I recorded him. And both of them are on record saying it was F-E-N-N-A-L. Both of them.
Yeah.
And then I find out after the video, there's an urban
bizarre
definition. And I don't know if that urban definition just popped into this reality, but the urban definition for phenyl is to be a piece of shit, particularly at work. I'm like, no freaking way. And I've got some friends that are just laughing about it. He said these demons are like in their break room playing your video, and they're playing the reaction of your face when you realize that means to be a piece of shit at work. And I was like, yeah, touche. I'm going to give him credit on this one. That is pretty funny. That just
my goodness. Oh my goodness. It is bizarre, isn't it? I mean, and it's like almost you're almost willing to accept anything now because we've seen so much stuff.
Anything can happen.
It's just like, yeah. And it's like, I don't necessarily want to accept everything because what if what I'm being shown is not real or whatever?
Look at the freaking damn animals that we're talking about. I mean, stuff.
Oh, I know.
I should have heard of this thing before. Some of these things are just
Rainbow Mountains.
Right?
Come on, we would have known that as a kid.
As a kid, we were looking for things that were bizarre, just to have. As a little boy in third grade, we'd go through like all these, National Geographics or world records, all these guys. Anything.
You're probably looking for the boobs.
Well, there was that, of course, but I mean.
No, I know what you mean. I didn't mean to.
If there'd been Rainbow Mountains, I think somebody would have put that in a magazine for us to see. If there'd been skunk pigs,
we would have known about that.
Things that exist, and they say that they've always known about them. It's not like they were just discovered. I mean, some of these things are mentioned as new discoveries too, but they're just way too bizarre. It's a colorful world.
But there was always Rainbow Mountains in China and Peru, and we never knew about it. I don't think so.
And more than one Great Wall, and
Pakistan or wherever they are, India.
50. I am just about 50. I am too old to have not seen these things that are suddenly being brought forth like always having been. It's just, it doesn't make sense to be around this long and not have experienced it. But I know from seeing reality change, I know the gig is up. I know what's going on.
But thank God we know. But see, that's what I worry about is like, are the people that don't see it, are they robots, or are they just, or do they just not see it and they get the downloads or whatever? I mean, because I don't want to believe that my family are robots.
Right. Nobody wants to think that, right? I try not. I kind of like on Rick and Morty. I try to not think about it too much.
I love that show.
He always says, "Don't think about it." I'm like, I'm not going to think about it. But I thought there was a moment that I thought I was the only person who existed, and I was dreaming. There was a moment that I saw something change so profoundly. I said, "Oh my God, I must be dreaming," because I saw. I keep talking. I just said that in that video with Fiverr about Mark chapter 4. And there was a series of events that led to a frustrating situation that was directing me at Mark 4. And I said, well, I wonder if God wants me to take a look at Mark 4. So I opened up the Bible in the morning and I started reading Mark 4. And I was like, oh, it's about the separation of the wheat and the tares. How appropriate. Mm. And I said, I'll continue to read this when I get to work. I get to work and I pulled it up on Bible Hub and I'm reading Mark chapter 4, which is interesting that the clocks at the number 4 are changing. It's like, mark that 4. But anyway, I'm reading it, and sure enough, it's the separation of the wheat and the tares. And
I was freaked out when I saw my mantle clock, and it had 4 ones.
Right.
Well, I didn't see it change, but I was like, what?
Right.
You know, it's not IV. It's like 11111 or whatever. Right. My face went white.
Yeah,
I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!"
Everybody was talking about that. I looked at the clock in my house, and my clock had the 4 ones, and then it switched back, and I made a video about that. But in the Mark 4 one, I'm reading the Bible, and it's saying that, and then the screen flickered, a very distinctive like zit zit. I'm not touching anything. The screen flickered in front of me. And the passage disappeared. It was no longer talking about the wheat and the tares. It was talking about a sower and all that stuff. And it's still in the Bible in Matthew chapter 13. But specifically the separation of the wheat and the tares was gone from that chapter. And the words changed from black to red. They switched over from black to red. So I was like, that's it. I'm done. I must be in a dream. This could not have just happened to me.
You know what I kind of want to believe is that, you know, we see these people as NPCs or robots or whatever, but what I want to believe is that they're in a separate reality experiencing this as well and work on.
Yeah, and Suso kind of,
you know, because that would help me if if I knew that was the case.
Yeah,
because it bothers me.
Did you hear the call I did with Suso? Because he kind of brings forth that idea that in another reality, and in some of the other realities, we actually died. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and see, I'm wondering that as well, because the reason I don't. You're not recording this, are you?
I have a default recorder that always records.
You can record it, but it's just kind of embarrassing, I guess. Is that the whole reason when I think about, and Susu got me to thinking about this, that I might have died, because when I was 13, I had a friend that committed suicide. And I took like a whole bottle of aspirin. Well, that whole bottle of aspirin is probably not going to kill you. But what if it did?
Right. What if it did?
And maybe that's when I saw my first Mandela with the whole John Deere thing.
Right. Right.
You know?
Well, and just how I was wanting to die, and then all this kicked off. I mean, but I experienced Mandela's earlier. I can tell you this. There's been a lot of times in my life where I should have died. And miraculously, I was just pulled out of it. And I talk about that in my Voices video, because there was a voice that told me to run just a moment before I was going to be kidnapped. And I ran as a child just because of the voice. And there's been other instances, too, where Man, I shouldn't have.
See, I have other stuff too, because I have a weird one in that I woke up. I was driving one time, and I just woke up in this military complex, and there was like all these cop cars, and they were stopping me, and they're like, "What are you doing here?"
Huh.
And I'm like, I don't know.
Wow.
I just got lost.
Well, I've got some.
And what's weird about that is that this was in Pensacola, Florida, and I know exactly where I was or where they told me to get back onto the interstate anyway, and it's like a blank there.
Wow, that was a
so what
too, right in Pensacola. I should have been dead, but a voice told my wife not to go forward. And we didn't go forward when the light turned green. And a moment passed, and this car went through the intersection at 100 miles per hour. And had we been out there, we would have been dead. I was actually saying, "Why are you not going? What are you waiting for?" And then, vroom, this car goes through. That's just. But
weird. Do you think sometimes though, like in other realities, that you did go forward and that something happened?
Yeah. It does. It's now anything's possible. I think I just don't know.
See, and that's the whole thing. Like, I'm like with my people that like want to. I mean, I have a couple of people in my life that, like, one tried to commit suicide, and I'm like, if you commit suicide, you're just going to wake up in another reality. So It might be shittier than this one, so you might as well not do it.
Right. Yeah, it's not really an escape, so point.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways.
Well, good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, good. I am interested in hearing more about too some of the things that you've experienced and what's bringing it to you. When did it really hit you the hardest? Like the whole.
I looked online and I saw the Bible changes, and then I opened up a 50-year-old Bible and I saw the physical change in the Bible with unicorns and the Matrix and bottles and couch. I mean, come on. I mean, honestly, that was and the JFK thing too, but that was like my defining moment. I was just like, this is this happening?
I wonder if I should use the Bible more, because the ones you mentioned are pretty prominent too. They're worth mentioning. I mean, those are good ones, and I probably should discuss it more than what I have.
See, sometimes some of and I love the Bible changes Mandela channels, but I don't agree with all of them at all.
Yeah,
but because I know that the King James had some archaic language, and I'm pretty sure that some of the things that they think have changed have not, but I don't want to ever say anything, because I feel like at least they're bringing awareness, and at least they're followers of Christ, and it's important, but I don't ever comment on that, even though I don't think it personally was a change. But there is no way unicorns, couch, the Matrix, bottles, and that stuff was in the Bible. There's just no way.
Wineskins was one that I saw change while I was looking at it. That was one that
my gosh,
as I was reading it. Yeah.
That to me would be so freaky. I do believe that you've seen him, but it's just like that. If I ever saw a physical change like that, I don't know what I would do.
when this was first happening, oh my gosh, I was calling my father-in-law, he's a pastor, he's a preacher in Alabama, and I was telling him I'm seeing the Bible change, and so I got that verse about the wineskins, and I said, get a King James version, because, they have multiple versions. I said, grab a King James version with me and go to this verse. And I had my King James version, and not the new King James, the old King James. And I've got mine open. I'm looking at my Bible. I'm looking at the verse, and I'm about to ask him to read it out loud to me over the speakerphone. As I'm looking at my Bible is saying wineskins, and I was hesitant, thinking, this is supposed to be bottles. This is the whole reason I called him, is to point out the changes in the Bible. This is supposed to say bottles now, but it's saying wineskins in front of me. And I was thinking, what's happening? So he started to read the verse, and I'm reading along with him. And when we got to wineskins, it changed to bottles.
Did he read bottles or did he read wineskins?
He read bottles. When he got to the word, he read bottles, and in my Bible, it changed to bottles right at that same moment.
Mm.
So I don't understand how I was holding on to wineskins. You know, like, was the observer effect happening, and was my belief in wineskin so strong that I was holding it until he read it? I don't know. It's just
the whole
weird.
thing with California Dreaming song too. It's like, if you want to hear "I began to pray," is that what you hear, or no?
Yes, exactly. That's a good point. But that
I don't know.
So what time? What year, month? Where were you when you were getting the Bible change and seeing this stuff?
October of last year.
October.
Now I've seen like changes my whole life. Like I told you, the whole John Deere thing, and like I remember. What's kind of neat for me is that I lived in Alabama for, let's see, when was it? 2010 to 2016. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these I remember it because I was in a different state. I live in Colorado now. Mm-hmm. And so I remember like I used to get my hair done at JC, and I remember looking up at that sign saying, when did that happen?
Huh.
You know, with the EY.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, but this was like before recently. I mean, this was like, you know, probably as clear back as 2010.
And I know what you're saying. I was noticing changes before I was willing to accept that reality could change, because I had done that with many things. Home Depot I'd done it with. In fact, my son remembers us going in the car. This would have been around 2008. And I was saying to him, you know, when I was a kid, this is me talking to my son. When I was a kid, it was just Home Depot. It wasn't the Home Depot. And I said, they must have changed it because probably somebody had some sort of, copyright or some kind of, rights to the name. So they probably changed it. That's what I told him. And he remembers us talking about that. So we always made fun of the Home Depot. Let's go to and we'd emphasize it for years.
It was always Home Depot. It was never the Home Depot.
and I told him when I was a kid, I said when I was a kid it was always Home Depot, and then they switched it. That was my assumption. They changed it. And I never dug any, deeper. I just made the assumption. Same thing with Staples. My son and I, it's always with my son, we're leaving the store, and I would say this is around 2008 or so. We're leaving the store. I look back, and I see the sign has got that funky-looking L, and I said, huh, they changed it. I get what they're doing with the L, but I don't like it.
Well, but see, that's the whole thing, I think, with these logo changes is that, like, we weren't aware of it because we didn't realize that they were saying, well, it's always been this way. We just thought it was a change that they made.
That's the most natural thing to assume. You would not, who would think reality could change? It just... Right. But then, so for you, October of 2017... Are you saying it was big? October 2017.
That's when I saw. Well, this I think it happened before October, but I saw Berenstain. My niece is 6, and I saw a book on the floor, and I'm like, who? Someone's got to pay for that typo. That's exactly what I thought. And then when I saw the whole Noxzema thing change, and I was like, what is going on now?
And it's so funny because for me, October, September 23rd and then October for me in 2016, this was really hitting me with great intensity. And back at that time, I don't know if you've seen Affected Collective's channel.
Yeah, I like her channel.
We were talking all the time. We were both trying to figure this out, talking all the time on the phone every day. Hours trying to figure this out. We didn't have channels. I started doing a channel because I said to her, I need to just get it out there. I need to document that this is happening. And then
see, that's what I did recently too, because the whole Houston problem changed and it flip-flop for me, and then also Lowe's changed for me recently. And so I just made videos just for my own benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those videos, according to people, are going to possibly change.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I've seen
goes,
three.
right.
I've seen 3 Emmy channels change their names.
Wow.
Jen's Exploration used to be Jen's for me, and Jen's confirmed it, and even Miss Lampkins too. And they all saw it. Now, did you ever see her channel with 2 N's or just 1 N?
I can't. That's not one that I can remember for sure.
Okay.
I had
all right.
nothing to lock it in. Yeah.
Well, and then Mandela Affected, AFF, to be effected for me. And then also Brian McFarlane used to be, instead of an E on the end, it used to be a D on the end for me.
Wow.
And so those are 3 ME channels that have changed for me. For me. I mean, you know, I'm not saying it's changed for everybody.
Right. And
for me, those
that's
changed.
Exactly how this is. And I've talked about us being in bubbles, in personal bubbles of reality. Reality bubbles that we walk around and we kind of mix and mingle with other people's bubble realities. Because it does seem so individual sometimes. That's what I'm wondering
too. Is it like, is there a collective reality and an individual reality both?
Yeah. It
so
makes you wonder. A lot. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions still, but I think the best answers that I've found in the last year and a half has been, not even quite a year and a half, but it still goes back to initial conversation with God and the focusing on being very pure and having the right feelings towards other people, not being judgmental, living right.
Oh, I think
doing
that's
the right
key.
thing.
I think being positive is a huge thing too, because whenever I start getting even what you've said when you were talking about how you could see demons, I can feel that coming on me sometimes. But I consciously, like I said, I just consciously start singing in my head, Jesus loves me, which I know. And to get rid of it, because I don't want to feel that,
I had felt and was very aware of their animosity towards me. I felt their wanting to attack me. I felt it. I could sense their desire to attack. And God gave me this dream that showed a batch of, like a pack of angry pit bulls growling and snarling coming at me. And my wife, we were in a convertible in the dream, and one lead dog jumped up high in the air and came down to bite on me, and God just froze the dog in midair and froze its mouth kind of open so it couldn't bite me.
Wow, you've seen some really crazy stuff.
Well,
but I believe you totally.
Yeah. I mean,
but I'm just saying.
I reached out and I just pet the dog, and I had the epiphany in the dream that they can growl and they can act tough, but they can't do anything unless God allows it to happen. They can't do it. So I stopped worrying about it.
That is key.
And I just kept, the main prayer for me has always been for God's will to be. You know, what is your will here? I want to go through it. If it's something I have to bear through and it's not pleasant, I just want to know that I'm in your will doing it. I don't want it to be something that's out of your will, everything. So whatever it is, let my steps, let my words, let my path be within your will. And that's a daily prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the answers seem to go back to that. It's just a submitting to God's direction and letting Him guide us out of this mess and the evil that is in the world, just to guide us out of it and maybe to be used to change it in some way.
I'm worried, not that I think I'm going to ever take the mark, but I'm worried, what, it's not that I'm scared, because God says, He takes care of the sparrows or whatever,
right.
The verses, but am I going to just be randomly walking the country sometime because I'm not going to take the mark,
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking this stuff and I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm not going to take the mark.
Yeah. Yeah,
so whatever I have to do, I'm going to do.
I foresee that the system could go into this this pocket reality where AI is in such control that if you're not willing to really do everything, you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to have a job. You're not be able to to buy and sell. And then the Bible says that very clearly. You won't be able to do any of these things. So, you know, it makes me want to go into survivalist mode and go live off the land and the mountains and eat wild food or whatever. But you know, I'm okay with whatever is to be as long as it is His will. And I don't know if that reality necessarily has to manifest in my
No, it doesn't. But I think the key part is just trusting Him.
And maybe the rapture. You know, we've always thought of the rapture as a one moment in time, and everybody simultaneously goes. But what if the rapture is more of an individual thing, and the rapture is our way of finding our way out of this grid?
Well, and we talked about that earlier. You know, when I was talking about the whole Tower of Babel thing, I think you're onto that. Yeah. I think I had never thought about that. But actually, that is a very intriguing thought to me, because I think you might be right. We might all be in this individual type thing where we're supposed to come to God, or Jesus comes back, or whatever, individually instead of like a group thing, possibly. I mean, I'd never thought of that until you just said that.
Yeah, it's just an idea. I can tell you I've had a lot of bizarre things happen. I was telling Dan the other day, or Mandela Monday, I was telling him that I woke up one time. You know, sometimes there's voices, particularly in the morning, there's voices. And I woke up one morning and I was repeating the word tarpana over and over and over, and I didn't even know what it meant. I just found myself whispering it as I was waking up. So I looked it up, and I still don't even understand it. But
wait, what word is it? What is it?
The word's tarpana. It has.
I've never heard of that
some
either.
Kind of. It has something to do with, you know, the kundalini and the chakras and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
No idea. Yeah. But that kind of stuff happens, and you stand back and say, you know, is that just my subconscious, or is that something being communicated to me? Because I have felt like I've had things communicate to me in that way my whole life. In fact, back in my early 20s, I started having these dreams that were very lucid, and it's always somebody talking to me or reading a poem to me or doing something like that. And one of the first ones was this entity or spirit or whatever it was saying that it's lived through a vast period of time, and through all these ages, through all this time, it's enjoyed seeing the powers of love and light, or love and life, the powers of it mixing together, the power that's in it, and the interactions of people, and experiencing that. It was experiencing that from a distance, as if it was just observing and just kind of peering in. And that was a very weird. It was like, where did that come from? But
you've had some. I mean, if I had all the experiences you've had, I don't know if I'd be. I think I'd be in. I don't know, because I'm having a really hard time lately with all this. Because especially when I could hear you guys, like I think it was possibly a different reality that I was hearing or something.
Yeah.
And that it just freaked me out so bad, and I don't know if I can handle it. But just like what you were saying with the whole demons thing, at least I'm not seeing that. But because that would really bother me. But it's just like how can we deal with this? I don't know. I guess. It's great, though, because there is this whole community online and stuff. And, my gosh, I don't know what I would do without you guys.
Yeah, that is a coping. And the laughter is definitely needed. You'll notice with Dan and Rachel and just the whole group, they just chime in.
Rachel cracks me
Rachel,
up.
I'd have to say Rachel. She is such of a funny, oh, my God. But photos getting pretty good, too.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I like all y'all. but Rachel is hilarious.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
She's our celebrity presence, and she is a hoot. We talked about, Dan and I talked about like making a like actually making a coffee book edition of her feet. And sell it, the Rachel Reenstraw feet coffee book.
Oh, gosh.
No, we were talking about a scrapbook. I think Coffee Book was talking to somebody else. Dan and I were talking about making a scrapbook and having a parody video where, like, some guy with a foot fetish is going, oh, these things.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, it'd be so funny. But, yeah, I think the Coffee Book idea, that'd be funny, too. We just enjoy, the playing and the picking. We're making light of a serious subject because at first this is so traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's traumatic. I mean, because when when I saw the Berenstain and I saw the Bible changes, that was weird enough. But then, like, Mandela Effect, he told me, he's like, you're going to see some weird stuff this year.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't know what he was talking about. And when I heard you guys like that, I went about nuts, honestly. I was just like, what am I hearing? It's like they don't realize they're on air.
Yeah, yeah.
That is weird. Like, it must have been a different reality is all I can think of, I guess. Or hearing your thoughts or something. Yeah.
Well, that's true, too. And I do believe in the ability to do that. So, I don't know. I can tell you that you'll probably, in the community, make a lot of interesting new friends. And that's certainly
the best.
Yeah, that certainly comes about. And we're not all on the same page. I hate to see when fighting kind of emerges because we have disagreements about beliefs, but I like to see everybody kind of just accept others and forgive and love each other for whatever their position is. But there is some that, like, it's so funny because I get called a heretic by Christians for suggesting the Bible would change, right? But then the same people that agree that the Bible will change will sometimes call me a heretic for something else I said. It's like, can we just let everybody just think things through without forcing them to believe one way or another? Can we just let them pray about it and think about it? And, it's a tough time. We're trying to sort through a lot.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, I mean, a lot of the Mandela videos that talk about the Bible changes, I agree with almost everything that they say, but some of it I'm like, no, but it could be a different reality too,
Well,
so it's like, that's why I don't say anything,
I shy away from any group or people that will not let me have a counter idea or thought. And sometimes I'll throw out a counter idea, whether I believe it or not, just to see how they're going to accept me. And if somebody must control my beliefs, I walk away because I don't believe in that. I don't go for controlling anybody, and I don't want to be controlled either. So if there's a group that's shunning me because I said something that was wrong, I have to walk away. I mean, peace out, love you, but I can't be here. And that's
I know,
it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too. It's like the stuff that I put out there, which I never dreamt I would even have a YouTube channel.
Right, me neither.
But it's like, I know it's out there. Yeah. And I know people will think I'm crazy, but then a lot of people are liking it, too. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, great.
Yeah, you'll get, I don't know if you've gotten a lot of haters yet, but over time you do. And they can be a source of what's the word? A tool to learn, because a lot of the times at first when I'd get a hater, I would feel that wanting to fight back, and now I'm learning that just to accept them for whatever, and sometimes just seeing the humor in what they say too. And what I really love is seeing someone who's a debunker still have memories of the things the way they used to be, and they don't realize that they're actually supporting the opposite argument. But it's
I know, because I do stuff on purpose sometimes for people that they entertain what I say, but like I've got this friend that he like doesn't believe in any of this. However, I'll let things out that he agrees with, and then I said, "Did you realize that you just agreed with me on this, and this does not exist anymore?"
And they're like, "Will you stop it?" Yeah.
I know, because like the whole Sally Field thing, we were messaging each other back and forth on her Oscar speech, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, "You like me? You really like me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do." and he knew what I was talking about, but I told him later. I do that on purpose a lot, because I said, "Do you realize that that speech does not exist anymore?"
Yeah, a lot of times I will emphasize things like that, and sometimes again I think it's reality trying to get a rise out of me too. I was in a meeting about a month ago, and one of the ladies was bringing up something about peanuts and Charles Schultz, and she looked directly at me and said, "It's Schultz, isn't it? Charles Schultz?" And I just looked right back at her and smiled, and I said, "Yes, SHULTZ."
You know, that's one that occurred for me a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, like, probably, I'm talking 80s.
Wow.
80s. Because I remember one day looking at a peanut strip, and I'm like, what?
Right.
This name isn't spelled like that. I mean, and this was like probably, I graduated in 86, so this was probably like maybe 84-ish.
Yeah.
Something like that. So that's actually one that, you know, and I need to remember all these because
they go back.
It's so easy to forget because you don't think reality can change, you know?
I've got a theory after seeing the flip-flops, and the only reason I know reality really changes because I have been tracking it and I've watched the thing switch, and I've watched the whole world switch with it. So I know they can flip-flop, and my theory is that they've been flip-flopping for a long time, just people haven't been aware of the flip-flops. They haven't been aware of the things changing like that. So we may have gone back and forth. And that would explain why sometimes we have dual memories. I remember this both ways. Well, maybe you were in both realities and it's flip-flop.
Yeah, and also because you're 50, right? I'm 50 as well.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of times stuff has been a certain way for so long that's why we have dual memories too. You know, it's like, it was one way when we were a kid, but it's also been this way for 20, 25 years as well.
Yep.
You know?
Yep, exactly.
So.
Well, I better get ready for work. They're going to be calling me soon, but let's chat again. This is good stuff, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, I did too. It was awesome.
Keep watching your channel too and seeing what you come up with.
Well, I like yours. I've been meaning to put out a whole bunch of stuff, but I've been sick lately, and also freaks. But no, I enjoy yours too, and I don't care if you put this on. You don't have to, but I mean, I don't care if you put it on. Is what I'm saying, because I didn't want you to.
Yeah, I'll go over it with you if I do, and let's if you think of like more things you want to talk about, and you got my number, so call anytime.
Okay.
Or text.
Sounds great. It was really great talking to you, Scott.
Okay, we'll see you. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.